And so we've been speaking about deep rest, what true resting is. And that true resting is resting in the presence field, in the presence of being. That true resting is dropping all the way into the fullness of yourself, to the field of presence, the field of light transmission. And that as we mature, let's say, we have a greater capacity to drop deeper into the fullness of ourself. That in a way we are always the one self. We're always the grace and glory, and the misidentification and misunderstanding, the belief in separation and division, as that falls away, we drop deeper into what we have always been. It's as if the veils and the contractions and the conditionings and the beliefs fall away that are like a structure, a net that is holding us in limitation and division. So we're never aspiring to anything greater. We're never someone trying to become a different version of someone. We're not looking for new identities. We're not looking for a better version of myself. We're actually just opening to drop all the way into the fullness of the self that we've always been. And so the deep resting, as we so often say, just resting here, resting here now. And the frequency of that invitation to rest here now is a frequency invitation to be yourself. It's a frequency invitation to just drop in, to relax deeper than we can ever imagine in the ideas of physical relaxation, right? This is not about just putting your feet up or having a warm bath or hanging out on a sun lounger for half an hour. This is like true relaxation. This is a frequency field relaxation. This is a relaxation of the patterns of consciousness that have been dancing as discordant beliefs and conditioning and ideas, like consciousness itself tangled into a belief in limitation, the intelligence itself organizing itself to play out what the consciousness is identifying with in order to reflect and give the glorious possibility to receive the reflection of limitation so that there can be a deeper resting. And that deeper resting is a resting in your natural self. It's a resting in what is entirely natural. And in a way, what is entirely natural is what divinity is, right? Again, we can have these conceptual ideas of what divinity is as an ascension, as a something that we want to aspire to. But the truth about divinity is that it's the naturalness, and it's actually the deep and reverent truth of who we are and who we have always been. That God and glory is pure humility. That God and glory isn't an ascended idea that we're aspiring to, that God and glory is opening to the fullness through deeply resting and reconnecting to source and the fullness of who we are, and embodying that light, that frequency of love and openness. And when we speak about embodying that frequency of love, we're not speaking about embodying a love that is emotional. We're speaking about embodying a love that is like just pure grace and acceptance and inclusivity. That true pure love is just an open, unconditional frequency of total inclusivity. And there's a humility in the frequency of pure love, because there's nothing else, right? There's nothing else to compare. Love that isn't comparing itself. So it's not taking on an inferiority or a superiority. It's not taking on any ideas about itself in comparison to something other. So the humility is that surrender of all sense of aspiration, all sense of identity, and a willingness to, we could say in a way, to be no one, to be nothing. But to be no one and to be nothing is really referencing not being the someone as an identity that is divided, and not being something that is an object that is divided from the whole. Because the true nature is pure subjectivity, right? It's not an object-subject relationship. And within an object-subject or subject-object relationship, there is always a belief in hierarchy. There's always, the object is always placing itself in relation to the other seeming objects. Pure subjectivity is the field of love and openness and inclusivity, where there's nothing else. And in a way, the unified field, of course, is that pure subjectivity. The unity consciousness is a field of pure subjectivity. And that field of pure subjectivity is just a transmission field of love loving itself, of consciousness flowing within the field of itself to know itself, experience itself. And in knowing itself, experiencing itself, it's not even knowing itself as something else. It's just experiencing itself and loving itself, and just in the absolute glorification of itself, right? It's just flowing within itself at a frequency level of such a kindness and openness, where it only knows itself. And if it meets something that feels to be discordance, it just says, hey, welcome. I see you as you are. Welcome, right? And so the unification happens within the flow of consciousness naturally. And it's just the mind, innocent, protective, conditioned beliefs and strategies that keep the sense of division in place. So then when we come to this deep resting, the deep resting is resting as yourself. It's resting in the here now presence field of just being. It's a frequency invitation. It's not a doing. It's not an achievement. It's not something that can be grabbed onto, and it's not something that can be experienced in time. It is timeless, eternal, infinite, unbounded, and you are that. You are that infinite, unbounded, glorious being that is a field that is unified with the all that is. And the heart knows this. And it's as we rest that we drop into the frequency relaxation. We could say we drop out of the frequencies of division and limitation, and I know, and what I want for me, and what I think is right, and ideas and beliefs, and just all of the worldly ways that we have learned to really center everything around the me, right? Everything revolves around me. And there can be so much unconscious that we're always actually still thinking about what works for me, right? It's so subtle. It's so subtle how we're so me-centric. And again, it's innocent. It's a strategy. It's a protection. But the glory of this life and the wisdom is that it's never, ever It's never, ever sold out to those patterns of limitation. The wholeness is integral in its wholeness and unconditional in its flow of all inclusivity. So the glory has never sold out. It couldn't, because there it doesn't see anything other to sell out to. And it's all a mind game. And that mind game then is an inside job. It's all about the inner realms of our lived experience, of our heart, of our consciousness. And being the bright light of awareness that illuminates, being the brilliance, being the radiance, and having this possibility to be so present and conscious in our lived experience that we can keep illuminating and revealing with total kindness and compassion the strategies that we have put in place innocently and in certain ways with great genius, because they've supported us to survive and they've supported us to function and make a life work while we were in the process of revelation, while we've been in the process of actually preparing to rest. Wow, right? So many live in a constant state of underlying anxiety and stress and never rest. The nervous system never rests. Just more information, just overloading, constant, and never actually truly resting. Now here we have been gathering and we do know what true rest is. And just taking a moment here to just be in great glorious gratitude that we have the possibility to know what rest is. And part of the grace is that we, as we know what rest is and we deepen into true, deep rest, it's like we're resting for the whole, right? Every being that knows what rest is resting for the brothers and sisters of the world, of the human realm. We're resting for the whole. We're allowing that deep underlying existential anxiety and stress, frequency of fear, frequency of scarcity, of lack, of doubt, of guilt, of shame, to be transmuted through the field of resting, right? The frequency field of the light, the glory, the love is always transmuting what is in discordance. And so here, when we speak about resting and true rest and really deepening into our rest and recognizing the power and magic of what resting truly is, the preciousness, the value of silence, the value of stillness, the value of having the maturity, capacity and consciousness to actually rest and to rest in the field of presence. What we are resting into is the timeless, eternal, unchanging, unflickering, unwavering glory of God, right? The field of being that never changes, the eternal wholeness, the frequency of eternal God, the timeless frequency of eternal God. So we're resting in this frequency. Boom. And as we return to the frequency of rest, it's like the field. There's something that happens. Here it is. Something that happens as a human, as a consciousness of a human rests into the field of divinity. It sends out reverberant frequencies, and it also activates light codes in the field that move as a reverberant field. So this is where we might say that one human resting in divinity, like resting in the unified field as a unified consciousness, resting in the Christ consciousness, the Christ light, one human that is open to this reality, awake to this reality, the reverberations of that are beyond measure. It's not the same as a group of beings like meditating together, right? There's power in the frequency of beings meditating together. And we know that because Maharishi Mahesh Yogi explored that scientifically, a lot of measuring transcendental meditators meditating together and the impact, and a lot of beauty, a lot of beauty. But the reality is that if the mind is active and prioritizing, and we're not truly in deep rest, if we're not truly in deep rest, like the cosmic consciousness, the unity consciousness, or the frequency of God and glory, then the reverberant field isn't actually receiving the full impact. And the impact of one human that can rest, really, truly, deeply rest, is incredibly profound and beyond measure in a worldly sense. Although on the frequency level, there have also been explorations of the different frequencies. And the more refined the frequency gets into love, joy, light, and divinity, that the impact that that frequency has on the whole is greater beyond measure when then a group of humans, divine humans, gather. The impact then of the gathering, of meeting in the frequency of the unified field, the reverberant field, and how that impacts the whole starts to explode. It starts to explode and activate. It's activating the field of consciousness through light transmission, through light code transmission. It's activating the field through light code transmission. It's activating the codes of what has been dormant in the field, but is absolutely here as the natural potential of the human realm to know and live the divinity, right? So as these words come, just to notice what happens in the field of intelligence. Because what happens in the intelligence is like an enlivening that comes, and it can feel like the heart being on fire, it can feel like the belly, like your whole being on fire, because the intelligence is activated, and the activation is like it calls you out. It calls you out of the human realm of division and separation and the petty, let's be honest, the petty storylines that we can be so captivated by. It calls us out, and it calls us into the possibility of really embodying the power and the glory and the greatness of God as a reverberant field, and really opening to the magic of true rest and the impact of true rest. And that it is in resting where shifting and changing happens. It's in the resting where the recalibration happens. It's in the resting and not in the action, right? We've learned to believe that it's in the action, in the doing, in the pushing, in all of the activity, that surely we have to do something. And it's not to say that we don't move in action. Of course we do. But when action is actually the flow of true creation, true creative consciousness, it's very different, because it's coming from the frequency of true rest. of resting in the field of being, the field of transmission, the field of God and glory. So just resting here and receiving, noticing what is being noticed in the field, noticing what is happening in your field of direct experience of the intelligence, the enlivening, the recognition, the recognizing. And we start then to, through the enlivening of intelligence and the activation of the light codes, we start to then recognize what true rest actually is, and the value and the preciousness and the grace and the glory of true deep resting in the field of being, the field of presence. It's that sense of welcome home, like a deep exhale, that you just are here as yourself, just being yourself. And this is in a way the true field of infusion. It's where infusion actually infuses in the deep rest, in the resting here, now, in the openness, in the receptivity. Just receiving like an open receptivity, that you are the open receptivity, you are the awake awareness, receiving the flow of consciousness of the unified field, receiving itself, flowing within itself, knowing itself, and that there's nothing to understand because the intelligence itself is moving everything, recalibrating, reorganizing, and in that reorienting you to the presence of being that you are. So then the grace is that when we know this rest, when we know this truth, we know this sanctuary, that whatever happens on the surface of life, we have the ability to rest and to witness and to watch without being thrown off. That we actually realize that in the stormy, turbulent appearance of the surface of life, that what our true purpose and service is to remain rooted in rest no matter what happens. To not be capsized and to not be pulled into making an allegiance with fear, to not taking sides and to not entering into that play of opposites. Because as soon as we take a side and we are in the play of opposites, we're not resting anymore, right? We're in the mind, we're in the ideas, we're in the fear, we're in the division, the limitation, the separation, and we're looking out for the me. And who would imagine that actually looking out for the me has actually no benefit in keeping the me safe? That what keeps the me safe is looking out for the whole, looking out for the whole of the human realm. And how we look out for the whole human realm is by resting in the presence field of being, and being a field of transmission, of light, of love, and being a field of blessing. Because to be the field of blessing, we see and we experience and we receive the discordance, and we have this capacity to open to our feelings. We have this capacity to allow our hearts to crack open, to open, to be wrenched apart with all kinds of feeling landscape, emotionality. And we are coming to realize that as the macro affects the micro, there's this incredible grace that it's revealing to us what is still left, the frequencies of division and lack and limitation and separation that are still remaining inside us. What incredible intelligence, what incredible grace. That where we feel that discordance, that fear, that upset, it's not about dividing. It's about resting deeply enough that we have the capacity to allow the transmutation to happen. This is the incredible potency and possibility of a human life and a human nervous system as a consciousness, right? Not as a me, not as a story. And yet when we are living in this deeper capacity, it also includes everything. Everything is welcome. The stories are welcome. The lived, engaged life is the integration field. It is the way that we bring the light to the surface of life. It is the way that we embody the light and we bring that light, we bring that frequency to the surface of life. It's by not turning away from anything, but being the one field of deep rest in the face of seeming turbulence and chaos and discordance, right? So just to feel where you are in that field right now. Are you being pulled by the turbulent stories? Are you being pulled by fear? Are you able to rest and witness and to allow everything that gets stirred in you to be recognized, that it's like this opportunity to take full responsibility for your creation, for what you're seeing, how you're experiencing, what you're feeling, that it's not a story out there that you're a victim to, that what you see out there is actually coming out of the frequencies that are within you. And that when we realize that we have the power to transmute and to remain resting in the face of anything and everything, this is the mystical revelation that brings true safety, brings the ultimate protection. And it actually keeps the me safer than the me could ever even imagine safety could be, because it merges the me back into God and glory and the field of pure consciousness. So just to notice what is happening in your field of direct experience right now. Just resting here. Let that deep exhalation come. A relaxation, a softening of just being here. And to be here isn't to create a mood or any kind of situation, circumstance, or environment. It's about being absolutely open to this moment in its fullness. So everything that is here for you is welcome to be here, including your thoughts and your fears, including your body and your tensions, including your beliefs and your guilt and your shame. Everything is welcome here. All that you are is welcome here. And yet the resting carries you deeper than who you think you are or who you have believed yourself to be, and carries you deeper into the love that you are, the light field of presence that you are, carries you deeper into yourself and into the wide open transmission field of the fine and subtle frequencies that make up your subtle body and your light body, that we start to open to the intelligence that is like an architecture of love, of light. We start to open to the true body of light, the true, we could say, structures of what we are made of. And the structures that we are made of are coded fields and patterns of resonant light. And as we open to the finer and subtler frequencies of resonant light that we are made of, the intelligence and the consciousness comes online, and we start to feel different in our lived experience. And we start to create from a finer frequency where our lived experience and what we see on the screen shifts. And it can be quite extraordinary how we can transform the play of life by living at a frequency of reality, wholeness, and love. And instead of a story of lack and fear, we can actually completely shift the trajectory of the life in a moment. Have to experience it to really know the power that we are. And we experience it by being it. We experience it by resting and not following all the mind's ideas of dividing an action and separation and guilt and shame, but by recognizing whenever we feel resistance or stress or something that feels discordant, that is the opportunity to open to whatever is surfacing in the field of consciousness and is surfacing for you to transmute through your nervous system in service of the whole. So just receiving here now the intelligence and the activations of the transmission field of light here now. As you rest deeply in open receptivity, the recalibration and reorganization, the untangling and the repatterning of the frequency codes of consciousness is happening. You don't need to understand or have any kind of knowledge or control over what is happening, because great glory, thy will be done. Great glory, I am yours. Great glory, rewire me, recalibrate me, reorganize all of the ways that I have believed I am, so that I know the truth of who I am. Reorganize and activate what has been dormant in my consciousness, in my nervous system. Allow me to have the courage to transmute and receive whatever grace is bringing forward for me to meet and feel and sense. Let me not turn away from the divine assignment. Let me stay rooted in the resting. Let me rest deeper. Carry me deeper into resting in you. Forehead to the ground. Nothing for myself. Everything for you. Everything is yours. And let me realize that I don't lose myself in that. That I lose my fear and my guilt and my shame and my suffering. But I open to the realization of the greater truth of who I am in belonging at the level of frequency and subtle light, resonance. I belong to you. I belong with you. I belong in the unquestionable pure knowledge of the one self, the one heart, the one field of light transmission. And that when I am in this knowing, in this resting, that the knowing is a pure knowing, that is the knowing of the being, just being itself and resonating at a frequency of knowing itself that just is flowing within that knowing of itself. And that flow is the resonant light, flowing in the knowing. And as that resonant light is flowing in the knowing, there is a flow of bliss nectar that is like an elixir that is flowing to nourish and enliven the field and activate and open greater subtlety of light transmission, light code frequencies that have been dormant in the field. And as those codes are activated and they come online, I start operating with more subtlety, more refined intelligence, and my whole nervous system and consciousness recalibrates. And the recalibration is a reverberant field that is shared with the whole. Mm. So just as the words are coming, the activations are happening. There's nothing you can do or not do. It's just the wisdom, the intelligence, the light of wisdom that is just moving within itself. It is already a unified field. The light is already whole, right? We're not on a mission to save the light from the darkness. No, we're on a mission to shine as the light that has never ever been dimmed or diminished, and to live at the frequency of reality and realize that darkness can be fully embodied, because darkness is light in disguise. Darkness is love in disguise. So darkness can be fully embodied. There's nothing to fear. It's actually about facing the seeming darkness. It's about facing everything that we feel to be afraid of, opening to it. Worst case scenario, wide open heart, bring it on. Let me meet the feelings of my greatest fear. Let me allow. And when we say bring it on, it's not bringing it on like let that happen to me right now. It's like, let me face that. Let me face the fear in the field of feeling, sensing. Let me face it at this level so that I don't ever have to play that out. We could say that's the truth of it. Let me face the fear. And then I don't need to play that out. I don't have to use this precious life playing out a karmic resonance of fear and lack. Let me face it within this consciousness, within this nervous system. Let me face the fear so that I can transmute it and really get on with being the fullness of myself, really being in my full service capacity as love and light, and here as a warrior of love, of light, right on the surface of life. And let me recognize the power that whatever I'm afraid of, it doesn't actually have to play out. And I can have a direct experience of shifting from a lived experience of fear and dread and division and limitation. I can shift it at a frequency level to realizing that there is only love. And how that shifts is not by getting away from the fear, but by opening so fully to the fear that I'm digesting life. I'm digesting life on the level of frequency and energy. I'm digesting on the level of feeling, sensing. I'm digesting it and allowing the unconscious to come into the light of consciousness. That true reality is this moment here now, this moment here now, bright and radiant and glorious. And that our mission is not a play of opposites. It's not winning over being right and winning over the wrong. It's not the good over evil. It's not the good winning over the bad. It's about the light revealing the true essence nature of absolutely everything, right? The seeming greatest powers that seem to walk our earth and within the realms of like political and leadership, and that might be moving in crazy ways and ways of conflict, that these are all children that are just holding inner conflict and are living in fear and trying to protect themselves the only way that they know how, right? And in a way, as we don't collaborate with the stories of fear, we actually love every unmet child. Like within our inner landscape, we love every unmet child. We love every unmirrored child. Anyone that we think has a power over us, anyone that we are afraid of, anyone that we want to label as evil or bad or wrong, that we meet within ourselves the capacity to first of all love the parts of us and include and recalibrate the parts of us that are in fear and division. And then we extend that fullness of our overflowing heart, docked in the grace and glory of God and true unconditional love, that we just start loving and blessing anyone and everything that seems to be acting a little out of sorts, let us say. Right. This is the power that we are. This is the power that we are in our uniqueness as a consciousness, and this is the power that we are as a field. This is the power that we are when we are resting in true, deep, holy rest. Just to feel it in your nervous system, just to feel the power and potency of who you are, and what you have been placed in this human realm and this human birth for. Just to feel it right now and to receive it. And as you receive it, it's just to, in the recognition, just to say yes to the mission, your divine assignment, to say yes to your dharma, yes to what you recognize that you are here for. And you don't need to know the details, because what you can be sure of is that God and glory in your yes will come beaming into your heart and take up residence and will just start living through you. That God and glory will start living through every heart that is resonating at a yes and has the capacity to rest deeply enough to allow the frequency of light of the divine to get to the surface of life and impact the whole. What you can be sure of, that you won't be overlooked. You will not be overlooked. You don't have to work hard. Just be yourself, rest deeply, and you can be absolutely certain that the glory of love will start to be embodied and will start to shift the frequency of your lived experience so that you can be a beacon of light and a frequency of love. Great glory, let it be so. Great glory, receive the entirety of my yes. Great glory, receive my silent prayer. Great glory, receive my prayer, which is really just to rest here in the frequency of you, and to know that in the frequency of rest, in the frequency of just resting, that I'm offering my whole self to you. And here you can move through me. You can take up residence in my heart, in every single cell and fiber of my being, and my true soul light can shine, infused by the universal light. And here I am, resourced from source, and there's no division, there's nothing to get away from. That I am opening to the absolute wholeness, where I don't need to deny anything about my lived experience. I just welcome the fullness of my lived experience completely, right? It's in the welcoming of the lived experience completely, every single fiber and thread. This is where the shifting happens as we rest and receive and bless. Bless it all. Blessing yourself, blessing every single being in the constellations of the glory of this human life that are around you, near and far, in time and space, in timeless, known to you, not known to you, just to be a field of the frequency of blessing. Just to feel right now the direct experience of what we are opening to, what we are saying yes to. Just resting in the glory, resting in the prayer. That the deep resting itself is the prayer. The prayer that wants nothing, and yet the prayer that is open to receive everything. Prayer that wants nothing, and yet the prayer that is open to receive it all. Great glory, thy will be done. I do not even need to know what I pray for, because you are the most high intelligence of my highest self. You are the one, and your knowledge is the light that is resonating as every fiber and cell of this being, every thread of consciousness that I am made of. Your wisdom light is what I am made of. So your knowing knows. And when I rest in the knowing here of this heart and remember the intuitive knowing, I join with your wisdom light and I receive you at a frequency level in every fiber and cell and thread of my being that brings the subtle body alive and activates and builds the architecture of the light body. It is you taking up resonance here that is the light body. Great glory, you are my light body. Wow. Great glory, you are my light body. You are the light that I am in truth. And this light infuses the subtle body, infuses the physicality, infuses the consciousness multidimensionally, and upgrades, rejuvenates, recalibrates, reorganizes, and reorients the whole of the life. Hallelujah, and so it is.